Good afternoon, welcome to Anarchy Talk with Jimbozo. Anarchy is inevitable and anarchy is good. Just don't pay your taxes. But Jim, I have to pay my taxes. I don't want to be audited. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. That's how you win a tax audit lottery. We all want to be audited. And if we all want to be audited, no one gets audited. See how that works? Corporate tax law combined with Wall Street portfolios and workers who work for other companies. If they don't go international, they can right now if you beg them to. That means international law, no one has to pay taxes. They can't even touch you. The tax evasion, tax fraud laws don't even apply to you. The tax ban just goes away. And they'll never be able to assemble a world government, otherwise known as the New World Order, which doesn't exist, because there's always some bank in some foreign country that'll pay you and your workers electronically, where none of you have to pay taxes. Same applies to property tax with overseas trust funds, with corporate taxes and income taxes not having to be paid with overseas trust funds. I checked that with overseas payment processors, merchant providers, if you will, and that includes consumption tax. So the big three: start your business or beg your employers to make your business an international business, overseas trust funds, and forward payment processors. If we all did it, 7 billion people wouldn't have to pay a fraction of a penny in tax, and that does apply to property tax as well. And the first people to lay off are tax auditors. If your employers don't cooperate, don't want to be an international business, just go Delinquent. There's a little chance you'll be audited. If you are, just listen to the radio. Most of the commercials are tax lawyer commercials like Alan Thicke, Fresh Start Initiative, Pay Less Than What You Owe, only for people that owe more than $10,000. The IRS now negotiates from the standpoint of weakness, not strength, because they've been cutting the IRS budget for about 3 years now in a deal where the Republicans force the Democrats to cut the budget knowing that they won't lower taxes, so they know they're kaput. It's only a matter of time before we have no government. Yeah, it will be chaotic, but our chaos comes over, like Nietzsche said, and we'll have privatization for a better, cheaper, friendlier service in a permanent good world economy with the collapse of the misery index. And I'm winning more and more supporters every day that I talk about these inevitabilities. It's not a question of if, but when. Spread the word that this guy that's willing to be a martyr for a good cause wants to be the provocateur, or if you will, catalyst of good, by speeding up the rate at which we go tax delinquent, or just learn about international tax law to where they can't even touch you. But if you're delinquent, there's a rare possibility of penalties and interest. But if you start a lottery like me, or a charity for people that lose money initially, in penalties and interest won't be much money. The Republicans keep the penalties low and the interest will be low because the simple supplies on economics. Look it up. Then you really have nothing to lose. Just we all stop paying taxes, and we all do what I do with websites like anarchyforever.com. I just registered anarchywithpeace.com, which will, as soon as I'm done with the show, point to anarchyforever.com. So if you need a second URL to remember my home website, by anarchywithpeace.com, as of later today, I'll set up the DNF servers to where it points to anarchyforever.com, the main homepage. And you want to make this website your fixation. I change the content every day, add news items, do a podcast every day with a new spin on how I'm going to do something radical to basically go after the cronies that want the business as usual attitude with tax money going to counterproductive services, and they want to remain counterproductive at their jobs to generate their own job security, but I'm onto them. They fight me. They actually do me a favor, because again, it's divide and conquer, where the people that hate you actually love you more than the people that love you, because again, they self-destruct, much like the Orange County Sheriff's Department and others that are trying to put me away for life in hospice and assisted living centers, but I still have access to the computer, the phone, and society, and eventually probably will give speeches at Lions Clubs, Masons Societies, and other places that will concur with me and go viral with a old school touch on how to get the word to people, spread the word, the word-of-mouth recommendation, not just backlinks, which I, from a high-tech point of view, try to build up for my website to get higher page rank. It's a lot of hard work, takes a long time, and sometimes a lot of money that I don't have for press releases. But I'm doing better each day. We're slowly but surely, be patient. Word gets out. A much better world is on the way. 1,000 years of peace with a taxless kingdom. That's where I think this is going. The Brussels attacks are, of course, what I refer to on my title description for today's show. The main focus of what I do. Other than that, it's a slow news day. ISIL, ISIS, if they can be held responsible based on their claims of who they are and why they take responsibility no one else has. It probably was them, but or at least a loose interconnect with ISIS or the Islamic State. Now that the southern Syria that is heavily involved in Iraq and building Muslim state in Iraq and Syria. It's anti-Western and certainly anti-Israeli because we pay taxes that go to Israel to do terrible things to Palestinians, and that's where most of this hatred comes from. But we just have this knee-jerk reaction to just have hatred for Muslims and keep all Muslims out, like Donald Trump said, or keep the evil double standard where the more beloved Muslims, like the ones that killed a bunch of people in San Bernardino, are more likely to enter U.S. soil because the evil double standard with the not being able to profile according to the Equal Protection Act, which means irresponsible people win every time because of how the Marxist-Leninists work. And the good Muslims, like a family that, based on the background, had no reason for us to believe they were suspicious, couldn't even come from England to California to go to Disneyland, again because of the double standard where about the only people they profile are non-Muslims at airports because of the ridiculous way this Mickey Mouse country does things, where again it's all about the double standard, where it's not only do you reward the bad Muslims, but you punish the good ones because again, the people are held hostage by the ACLU and other people that say you can't profile according to the Equal Protection Clause. But then again, that language is not really there. You cannot get in the head of a law enforcer and prove that they're profiling, but if it does incidentally occur, like many blacks think they're profiled when they're pulled over, then they raise a stink. And what happens is the more Muslims that don't like being rousted because they're Muslim, they start shouting, and it enhances the double standard where you people, because you're foolish enough to pay taxes and put up with it, create again a contradiction where at airports it's like the wrong people are being profiled, they're being sexually molested. Younger kids, the older white grandmother, every fourth white grandmother they pull over. How the hell does that make us safer? And there's X-ray machines, they're very sexually invasive. It's no good. Just don't pay your taxes. We can privatize everything, including the courts, where the older judges won't have clout if they have to remand things to arbitration, or just won't matter as much when you don't have general fund money going to a court and the ACLU, which won't win when you privatize security at airports and again places like that government building in San Bernardino. Those hit the soft targets, so to speak, that the Muslims usually go after with ISIS, whereas Al-Qaeda, they usually went after hard targets where there's better security, and we killed their leaders to where they were muffled, so they created this new. Again, you don't win the war on terror. It's like George Clooney says, we don't win wars anymore. Peace is only achieved through anarchy. We make a goodwill gesture to defund Israel, and eventually we'll have peace in the Holy Land, which ultimately means, I think, will take away a lot of the Muslim hatred they have for us, the West, whether it's Western Europe or U.S., for being pro-Israel. But at the same time, we can go back to old school. Put up cameras everywhere and soft targets like the English did. My English ancestors did terrible things to Irish, so it created Irish terrorism with the IRA, which a lot of you younger people don't know about. You weren't alive back in the 60s through the 80s when all these terrible things happened in Northern Ireland. They say white people don't write, we're far more violent than the Muslims. Yeah, terrible things happened, really brutal things in Northern Ireland because of Irish hatred for the English. And they made it a religious thing. The Protestants were loyal to England versus the Catholics, or was it nationality or religion? Same thing with the Muslims. Is it about dying for Allah, or is it about hatred of the U.S. and the West for support of Israel? I think it has more to do with revenge for politics rather than religion. And what the English did to defeat the IRA, Irish Republican Army, that committed all kinds of bombings and terrible things in England. I was in London back in 1974 where they closed down theaters that were bombed by the IRA, and now it's being bombed by the Muslims. And the English get their shootings and all kinds of terrible crimes committed by Muslims in England, but originally it was the Irish that were the enemy, so to speak, if they were the IRA and terrorists. So the way they defeated the IRA was put up cameras everywhere in all the English cities, and then human intelligence, like Ian Fleming, who was motivated to write the James Bond books, were about real-life English spies that were quite successful at human intelligence that would penetrate the IRA, and it made the IRA unstable. They couldn't trust anyone with a secret, and they self-destructed, and the English largely won the war against the IRAs. It led to Sinn Féin and peace in Northern Ireland. We can do the same thing with the Muslims, just defund the beast, but at the same time, good old-fashioned human intelligence combined with cameras everywhere at soft targets. Yes, profile. Anyway, you're forced to profile now. Who cares what the courts say? Would you rather get sued for profiling when they can't prove you profiled, or would you rather die? Would you rather die? So again, because there are many opportunities to stop these people in San Bernardino, where you have Arabic-looking, Muslim-looking people with semi-automatic assault weapons that are illegal at a gun range. in San Bernardino. And they didn't call the police fast enough to stop it, and they basically weren't profiled in events like they should have, with very suspicious backgrounds. Where they were led in this country even though they had very strong anti-Israeli sentiment. They got a loan from a illegal, basically a loan from a what you would call electronic bank, kind of like Bitcoin or something like that, where it was counterfeit money for all you know. So again, NSA wasn't doing their job. They instead go after the soft targets, not the hard ones. It's all about the double standard, where again you can't do anything negative when it comes to suspecting Muslims of doing something suspicious. And the Western Europeans are the same way. So the double standard makes us all look like fools. So you got a profile. Let them know the system's going to collapse, where the courts are. We're not going to have courts or any kind of remanded arbitration that's going to penalize us for profiling people for being young-looking Muslims, and mostly men, in some cases women, of course, because they're using the women as well, and try to make them feel a little bit less welcome. I don't think you have to keep it all Muslims like Donald Trump said, but the fact of the matter is that you have to get rid of the double standard. You can check these people out thoroughly for what they do on the internet, what there's some about witnesses, personal conversations, testimonials, criminal background check from where they come from. We can have much better immigration standards when you privatize. When you privatize NSA, then you can just do what they do in Israel, where they no longer have bombings in airports or planes. And we've had, again, of course, in Israel, they still have violence, but it's the kind of thing that there are a lot of Muslims that are there as a percentage of the population compared to what we have here. But that loser, George W. Bush, who allowed 9/11 to happen, I mean, he immediately allowed 100,000 new Muslims to enter the country right after 9/11. What the hell is that? It's a goodwill gesture. He's just a bonehead, just like this guy we have in the White House right now. And if you want the double standard to go away, get rid of the government. Don't pay your taxes. Tell everybody tax revolt works. Turn around the world economy. If people are economically fit, we can, conservatism through anarcho-capitalism is all about uplifting the downtrodden individual, where the collapse of misery index, self-employment will all do better. People are less likely to hate one another, do terrible things, defund Israel. But again, as far as defeating terrorism, you have to have more cameras and profiling at those soft targets, and we need human intelligence to penetrate ISIS. But they don't do that like they did in the old days. It was quite effective when the British defeated the IRA. Electronic intelligence is expensive, and people assume that high tech is the answer. No, we have to go back to old school. I think we can defeat terrorism, but at the same time make a goodwill gesture to the good Muslims that we want peace in the Middle East, and I think it's all about Israel. But again, this is a country that sucks the ass of the pro-Israelis at Ali-Pac. Yesterday, even Donald Trump, he turned out to be a pander, because Ali Trump is run by the pro-Israeli element, as is most of the media and finance in this country, that says you're not allowed to say anything negative about Israel. Well, the Israelis, it is a Jewish terrorist state where they do terrible things to Muslims there. But by and large, 60 Minutes is like the only major news article of the mainstream media that tells the truth about the terrible things Israel does. In fact, they don't even go far enough, because there are so many terrible things that happen where they don't have eminent domain laws in Israel. They just kick the Muslims out of their houses and displace them, deport them, and all in the name of the throne of David or amusement parks and things like that. Makes people very angry. I mean, the age-old feud between Muslims and Jews, it goes back 1,300 years, we know that, but Muslims are the have-nots, the Jews are largely have, so it creates resentment. So, of course, that disparity between people, not from the standpoint so much of religion, but a history of conflict where the Muslims felt the Jews have always gotten the best of them with American support, Western support. That means this war will never end unless you look at things from both points of view. I'm not anti-Israeli, I'm not anti-Palestinian. You need to bring people together, find out when something's divisive, like immigration or the war on Islam, the war against terrorism, but to some degree they make it about a war against Islam. Infinite wisdom is somewhere in the middle, otherwise you can't have peace. So enough said about that. I'll cover more news items after this music break. Another short show today. I apologize for being late. It's been confirmed I'm going to a house, it's basically independent living in Buena Park, California tomorrow. And I was late today to show, not at 12:30 like normal. Like normally, I do a 12:30 show, and tomorrow, actually the day after tomorrow, what I'll probably do is go back to 12 noon, as in the past. But what happened was the guy from the independent living house was here. We had a long interview, so I couldn't do the show at 12:30 or 12:45 like I normally do. So I apologize for being late. But rest assured, 2 days from now, I'll go back to a 7-day-a-week show, 12 noon Pacific time. And I apologize for being late, but the 9 of you who are followers are notified at least in time by email when I do a live show. I know a lot of you like to listen to the show live. You can chat with me. Skype is up. Anarchy.forever1. That's ANARCHY.forever. FOREVER. 1 is the number 1 for my Skype address. Love to have you Skype in with sound so we can do a longer show, but I can do up to a 5-hour show.